Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. With me today is Brodie Sharpe. He is a physiotherapist, and he's doing some really cool stuff in the world of online physiotherapy, and he's also got a podcast about running, which I think is really interesting. So, Brodie, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Tyson. How are you?
I'm good. I was trying to work out how many physiotherapists I've had on this show, and I think you're number 3.
Good. I like that number.
So, and what's good about it is each physiotherapist I've had on the show, we've spoken about completely different things. I don't know, have you ever listened to the Uncomfortable is Okay podcast?
I haven't, no.
With Chris Desmond. He's
add it to my list.
Yeah, he's a New Zealand physiotherapist. And yeah, he takes people through, he has a lot of people on his podcast, and they talk about uncomfortable situations they've been in and what they learnt from it and how they came through the other end. And he sort of came up with it because he applies when he's talking with a lot of patients and they've got to go through different treatment, that sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable, and uncomfortable is okay.
I like that. That's really cool. Different take.
Yeah, which is slightly different take on it. And the other person that's been on was Paul Wright, and we were talking about marketing and business.
Cool. Hopefully I can shine a little bit more wisdom and maybe take it from a different angle to the other physios you've had on.
Well, I think this is going to be a completely different angle because you've actually started an online physiotherapy business.
Correct.
How did that get going? What was the thinking behind that?
It's the thinking. Well, I think about 18 months ago or so, I was thinking about breaking away from my job within my clinic. Right now, I'm working part-time as an employee at a private practice clinic, and starting to think about detaching myself away and doing my own thing. And do I open up a clinic? Do I buy into the franchise? Or I was just trying to come up with my options and what I thought was best.
Yeah.
And started realizing this emerging wave of online physios, but also other health professionals. And one of my colleagues was just venturing out into as well, but he was specializing in men's health. And he brought forth the idea, why don't you just do online? And I started investigating, doing some research, and there's a few gurus that are teaching people how to start up their own online business with any health professional. And liked the idea, liked the business model, sort of came together and thought I'd give it a try. So here I am.
So how long has it been going for now?
I've started seeing clients probably the last 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
But that's more just to test out the processes and make sure the software is all working well and the steps I've got in place are all working well. And it hasn't been until the last 4 weeks that I have moved from a part-time capacity as an employee and part-time 3 days a week doing this online business and starting to see more and more paid clients. So it's really ramped up the last 4 weeks or so.
So, and how did your employer feel about you doing an online business on the side? Because you said that you were thinking about buying into the franchise, so it's obviously like it's a corporate physiotherapy clinic you've been working for.
Yeah, so I work at a franchise called Back in Motion, and it's one of the biggest physio franchises in Australia. And I like to make sure my relationship with my boss is like completely transparent. And I was telling them my ideas about starting a new business and whether I had a couple of meetings with head office at Back in Motion to see if I want to delve into that franchise. And it felt better for me just to keep them up to date with everything that I had planned.
Yeah.
And so eventually proposed to them that I want to do my own thing and I want to do it online, and proposed a sort of a transition out. So I was working on this, like the website and the podcast and the plans and the steps for the last 12 months. And then, so they were fully aware of that and had this idea to work part-time for about 6 months and then completely detach and do my own thing after that. And so they're like, yeah, write a business proposal for us. So I did that, and they've been more than supportive and more than helpful throughout my entire career with them. So yeah, I'm pretty grateful that's worked out.
Okay, so what's the difference between? Well, I've got a couple of questions. I've got tons of questions as you've been talking, actually. One was, you started the podcast before you started the online physiotherapy business.
I have. Well, this is where it gets confusing because I've got two podcasts going. So for the last 2 years or so, I had the Everyday Running Legends podcast. So I was just interviewing.
Oh, I like the name Legends. Yes.
Yeah. Just interviewing runners with really motivational running stories. And that was purely just a passion project of mine, like really interested in hearing from runners and hearing their stories.
Yeah.
And this new podcast, the Run Smarter podcast, has only been a couple of months in the works and ties a lot more with the business. And it's pretty much me educating runners on how to make smarter running decisions with their training and race preparations and overcoming injuries. And so being the online physio that I am, I'm specializing. Well, I can't say specializing, but my primary interest is seeing runners.
Yeah.
So all the marketing and all that sort of stuff is going to be focused on runners. And so growing the podcast and educating people and being in their ear and telling them all these things about running. If they are injured and they do need a physio, hopefully I'm their first line to come and ask any questions that they might have. And so it ties in with the business quite well.
I think it's really smart. So people, because I know runners are an interesting group of people.
They are.
Yeah, so runners are always searching for. It used to be running magazines, but there's not as many running magazines these days. But they're always searching for online information. They're listening to running podcasts. So all of a sudden they come across your podcast. They're listening to that, and your running podcast is, say, sponsored by Breakthrough Running Physiotherapy, and all of a sudden they go, oh, so here's a guy that I'm listening to every week. I'm starting to get to know him. I'm starting to get to trust him. Then from there they go, I'm having a niggling problem. I could go and see the physio down the road who I do not know, or I can actually contact this guy that his advice over the last 6-12 months has been awesome. I'm going to give him a shot. So that is a great tying the things together.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if you're familiar. I've got this, I've been reading a lot of Michael Port's stuff. He's got this book called Book Yourself Solid, and he is mainly like this guru on for health professionals or like anyone who has a lot of clientele and wants to book themselves and grow their business.
Yeah.
I was listening to a lot of his stuff, and he was saying that don't worry about delivering too much information. What you want to do is deliver as much information that you're uncomfortable with, and then deliver more.
I like that.
The idea being, like, you want to be their first line, their first go-to person for contact if they need answers.
Yeah.
And if you give them teasers and you say, if you have knee pain, focus on 1, 2, 3. And if you need more stuff, then go to my website. And like, if you just give them little teasers, it's not going to be as effective if you just tell them everything and teach them everything as much as you're uncomfortable with. And therefore, like, when they really need help, they really need a person to person, they're going to be the first one that you're going to be the first one that they go to. And if they want more information and you only give them teasers, they're going to find more information elsewhere. There's so much information on the internet these days.
True.
Everyone, like magazines, online forums, Facebook groups, you name it, they're going to find those answers somewhere. But if it's all in one package and you're delivering all of that, as soon as they want someone, you're going to be the first one that they go to. So I took that advice on board, reading Michael Port's books and things. And so that's what I'm applying when it comes to the podcast.
So it goes against everyone's natural instinct.
Yeah. You want to give teasers and you want like people just to be attracted to you through that. But I like the way Michael Port talks about that. It seems to be more aligned with myself as well. It kind of feels a little bit sneaky to give teasers and then have people like.
Well, I find teasers annoying. I remember we were really lucky. 15 years ago, maybe 18 years ago, Robert Kiyosaki was in Cairns, and he was putting on a small workshop. There was about 30 people there. And
wow.
This is before, like, we'd read the book, so we knew who he was, but this is before he became really sort of big. And so there's 30 people in this room, and he was talking similar sort of things about that, just giving people the information. And he gave an analogy of when he used to fly helicopters in the army or whatever it was. So he'd fly a helicopter, and so he's giving an example. When you fly a helicopter, when the helicopter is going to crash, your natural instinct is to pull up, is to pull out of the way. He said, and if you do that, you're going to die. He said, I'm pretty sure he gave an example that when the helicopter was about to crash, especially going into water, you dive it, you push it into the water.
Okay, why is that?
I don't know. I can't remember why.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah, so it goes against everything that you think that you should be doing. Your natural instinct is to pull away, but if you dive into it, I don't know, it's something about the way it hits the water, you got more chance of surviving.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
I think
I hope I heard that right.
Yeah, I know, because I'm trying to figure out how it actually works. But he's like, with his book style and everything, it goes with the same message. Like, he delivers everything. Yeah, he's got like several books on several different topics, but on that one topic, you learn everything through that one book.
So if there's any helicopter pilots listening to this, if I'm telling lies, can someone please email me and get rid of it? Yeah, it could be a myth that's in my head, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said. When you were crashing into water, if you're pulling up, it's the way the helicopter hits and the way the blades are going, it's just bad news for you. But if you actually dive it in, it's something to do with the way that it actually hits the water. You got more chance of actually surviving.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like you also, everyone's natural instinct is I'll give you a little bit so that I look good or I sound good. Then you'll want to come to me, but you're like, no, give them everything. So they go, wow, this guy. Well, they don't want to go anywhere else then to get their info.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If anyone's listening to this today, and this is all you learn today is just about give, then your job is done. Our job is done. And Gary Vaynerchuk says the same thing. In his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. Is that what it's called?
I haven't read it. My brother has, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what he's talking about. He said it's just like give, then ask. Whereas some people go give, ask.
Yeah.
And then wonder why they push people away.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about.
So so far you've been applying that to your business model?
As much as I can. Like, I write weekly blogs. Like, this podcast is about 20 episodes in now, and just trying to the best of my knowledge, delivering it all I can. Like, if there's the thing I'm stuck with is if someone comes to me and is after, say they have shin splints, and they message me on Facebook and they say, I'm listening to the podcast, it's going really well, but I have shin splints.
Yeah.
At what point do I let them know all the stuff they need, or because I need to eventually book them in for physio, you know what I mean? Like, at what point do I say, okay, you need to book for an online appointment with me, or do I give out free advice? That's where that teetering tends to happen. But what my approach is at the moment is, if I think they need to book in for online, I'll say these are the services I offer. You can book in online through this website. If you want to find out more information, here's where my blogs are. Here's where the podcast is. Here's where my Facebook group is for support.
Yeah.
If you need any more information, then book in for an appointment and we can have a chat.
So say, for example, I listened to the podcast and I had shin splints.
Yep.
Too hard, too fast, or too old, too slow, one of the two. And all of a sudden I go, okay, I've got shin splints, been listening to the podcast. I know you have an online service. I reach out to you. How do you determine if it's going to be just a free chat, or do you want them to come into the online service straight up?
Yeah, I will let them know up front. Well, I'll first of all determine their situation. I'll have a couple of questions to see if they're appropriate for online physio.
Yeah.
And if I have determined that they are, I will let them know, okay, this is what I offer. This is what we can do for you if you do book in for online physio. And I just walk them through the steps, any questions that they have, because a lot of questions immediately arise when I say it's physio and it's online. They naturally have a lot of questions. But that's what I'd do to start with. If they are injured and they are coming to me, if they've giving me like a direct message saying, I have this pain, what should I do? But if they're sort of being like, oh, enough, I'm ready for online physio, I'm not too sure if I can like afford that service, I just want to see how I go for now. I'm like, great. Here's like the answers. Here's where to go find the answers. And if I might give them one or two kind of takeaways based on their scenario. And then I say, if you do require like a running assessment or a strengthening program or something like that, that's what I offer. Let me know if, and eventually they might, book in for a session and we can get to work.
Okay. So, because a lot of people would think physiotherapy is something that is hands-on.
Absolutely.
There's got to be a bit of touchy-feely going on, or there has been no treatment. So I can imagine walking into a physio room, in face-to-face, you sit down with them, and the whole consultation, the physio doesn't touch you. It's just talking.
Yeah.
Does it take a while for people to get their heads around that?
Absolutely.
You're not touching them?
Yeah, and it's one of the first like replies I get, because as soon as I say I offer online physio, everyone first says, oh, what about if I need hands-on work? What about if I need hands-on treatment? And it's like, it's the natural instinct, and it's what everyone would say, because everyone knows physio is a very hands-on massage, release, manipulations, mobilizations, all that sort of stuff. And it takes a while for me to let them know how effective online physio can be, which is something like for a runner, for example. This is why I like targeting runners so much. All the evidence that is out there will show that no matter what your running injury, the best effective management is correct diagnosis and injury education about how they got the injury to start with and what they can do moving forward. So just like these management tips, and then depending on the injury, basing on strength and modifying their training programs and giving them guidance as to running programs, stretches, exercises, all that sort of stuff, is the most research-based management that you can come up with. And so once people realize that, and the importance of hands-on work is not as heavily weighted as the other management exercise therapy side of things, they can kind of appreciate that we can do all of that online and how effective it can be.
Well, it makes sense though, because you can go to a physio and you can have a half-hour treatment with a physio, and they'll say, see me next week. That 30 minutes, unless you've been educated, you know what to do afterwards, you know how to modify what you're doing with your running, your footwear, all that information, that 30 minutes is not going to fix the problem. There's so much more, because even when I go and see my physio and he'll go, oh, he said, well, if you want, I could always bring the ultrasound machine and put that on you. He said, you know what, we might even plug it in this time.
That's a good one.
So he is very much along those lines, that he only does so much. It's the education that is the difference.
And it's the education that's the long-term results. Any sort of mobilizing or hands-on release work might feel good, but if it does, it is beneficial in the short term. And that's when it really ties in well with, if I'm in my clinic and I do see an injured runner or anyone else with an injury, I do hands-on work, but slowly weave in that education, slowly weave in that exercise prescription and the longer term management, which is where all the evidence lies. And the hands-on work is less supported. But I was going to say, I do have this money back guarantee for a new runner who does book in online. And that being, if within our first consultation, we determine that they're not appropriate for online physio and that they need either emergency like medical attention if there's any red flags that have come up, or if they need hands-on work, if they fall within this really small percentage that does require hands-on work, I give their money back. They book in with a physio that they have seen, like a local physio, and I'll personally give them a handover to that physio what they need done, and therefore they have the reassurance that they have my expertise with working with runners to deliver to their local physio of what treatment they actually need. And so it gives them a bit of reassurance booking online that we do have that option.
No, that's good, because there would be, if somebody has had an injury, is it red? Is it swollen? Is it making funny noises when you move that joint? It's those sort of things. Maybe they do need to see somebody. But the reason I wanted to get you on here, not just because I thought this was really interesting, was there's so many other businesses out there that I think when they listen to this, there might be some people listen to the first 5 minutes and they switched off. Why am I listening to an online physio? It doesn't make any sense. But if they listen to everything you're saying and they sit back and they go, okay, how can I apply that to my business?
Yeah.
What am I doing now that I'm actually face to face with people that maybe I don't have to be? Or can we modify things where we spend less time with people and more time on the education side of things?
I know a lot of physio clinics now, a lot of really big physio clinics that are doing telehealth in combination. So they're seeing face to face, but they're also doing this online service. They offer the online service in combination. So you might see someone face to face to start with, and then for subsequent sessions after that being online, and others that, just have separate services. So it's this newly emerging thing that people are just trying to figure out for themselves and seeing if it works for their business as well. What I've found is if you wanted to purely go online, I think it's best to have that niche, like that little specialty kind of niche market, because you need to think if someone's injured and they have to weigh up either seeing you, a generic physio who's online, or another person, a generic physio who you can see face to face, they're going to choose that face to face and have that relationship.
But there'd also be a price difference too, wouldn't there, between a face to face physio and talking to you online? Is it cheaper to talk to someone online compared to someone face to face?
I suppose it depends on their business model. Right now, you cannot claim online physio. They don't recognize physio with private health insurance, so you can't claim.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, there's a lot of negotiations going on at the moment with the APA, with a lot of big health insurance companies, and seeing, okay, how can this work? How can online physio be covered? And there's already some dialogue back and forth going, and it will be covered. It's just a matter of when. They just need to work it out, just because it's so new. And but in terms of, like you're saying, the price, it just depends on the business model, what people want to go with. So at the moment, I offer a time frame rather than a consult. So at the moment, you have two options, two packages. It's 1 week of unlimited physio or 1 month of unlimited physio. And we jump on the call, we do this initial consult, and then you just have me at your beck and call for messaging and exercise updates of your exercise program, and just following you along your journey throughout that time frame. And if you end that time frame and you want to see me again, then you either book in for a week or a month as well. And so you just it just depends on the business model.
Okay. And then you mentioned that you also have a Facebook group. And on that Facebook, and most Facebook groups are there as a support structure in the background. Is that how you're using the Facebook group as well?
The Facebook group at the moment is called Become a Smarter Runner, and it's for those to share any running injuries that they have with the community, if they want answers or if they want to see what's helped other people who might be going through the same scenario. But I am sort of attaching the podcast with that, because anyone who wants to learn about running and wants to become a smarter runner is going to listen to the podcast, but also want to be a part of that group. And so I'm sending info about guests that I have, like future guests I have on. If people want to ask any questions, I put the latest running research on there with a few like summaries on articles, and people are just asking about their running injuries. So that's what the Facebook group is kind of for. And it's so if someone jumps into the Facebook group, they're reminded that I do have a podcast, and it's kind of interwoven, I guess. So
in the future, do you see your I was about to say podiatry, your physiotherapy career heading more to being 100% online? and not in a clinical situation, or do you think you will always have that slight balance, or you'll have an online presence and you'll have your own clinic set up somewhere that's yours?
Yeah, like my long-term business goals, they flip on a dime every couple of months or so. Yeah, I change my mind very quickly, and I come up with new ideas.
I think that's great.
My idea, if you were to ask me 12 months ago what I'd be doing, I'd say opening up my own clinic. If you were to ask me a couple of months ago, I would say it's going to be 100% online. Where I'm sitting at the moment is I think in about 3 or 4 months' time, I'm detaching from my employee role, and just going 100% online.
Oh, good.
And I'm starting that up, and then once this business starts growing, I'll start maybe opening up either a little clinic and start seeing people face to face, or stick with the whole 100% online. I'll make that decision when it comes down to it, because I'm conscious of the fact that I might feel a bit lonely talking to a computer, talking to a screen the whole entire time.
Like I do all day.
That person-to-person engagement, yeah. So if I get a bit lonely, I think that might be an option to have to start seeing people face-to-face.
It's funny because I work from home.
Do you get lonely?
I do get lonely occasionally, yeah. My wife will even say, why don't you just leave the house? And I go, there's people out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things that majority of the time, because I'm editing podcasts, talking to people like yourself, got the Podiatry Legends podcast, so I'm doing stuff on that one, coaching calls with podiatrists, some coaching calls with some dentists, but I'm doing this coaching with this small business organisation in Cairns, and so I actually leave the office here and I go and work from their office. And I really enjoy that. It is nice just to get out and talk to some other people, face to face, touch somebody.
Yeah, I know.
The human touch. So
We're social creatures.
But I can understand, because you mentioned before, like some of the bigger players do part physiotherapy, like hands-on, and then part telehealth. So is any telehealth covered by any of the health funds, or none of it is?
None of it is at the moment, just because it's too new. Like it's not even the fact that they don't want to. It's just they're not too sure what online actually is and what it offers and where the evidence lies. Is it effective? What about if you show someone an exercise on a consult and they fall over and like hit their head on a piece of furniture? Or what about the safety with privacy? What's the data encryption? Are they safe? All that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because you can't even send an email with somebody's medical records, and everyone's going, oh yeah, like people, these black hat hackers are going to dive in because I've got a glute tear, and they're going to tell the world that I've torn my bum.
Yep. It's like they just don't know. They need answers, and they're raising all these interesting questions. And we've got the APA, who has Karen Finnan, who's like sort of leading the charge.
So she does a lot of online stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah, she actually offers courses on how to set up your own online clinic, and she's pretty much spearheading this whole let's get health insurers on board. She's spearheading this whole campaign, and so she's on the APA board at the moment.
Right, yeah, because I have checked out some of the stuff that she's done in the past. And I know a friend who's a dietitian who's got a big online presence as well. So I do think it's something that is going to happen in the future, but I didn't realise it wasn't covered by health funds. I just assumed it was.
Yeah. And it also raises the question of like, what about if you have to see someone internationally, and there's no like real like international governing body to rely on or refer back to. And so there needs to be something in place. I know at the moment I can't see anyone in the States because they work a little bit differently. Like if you're a physical therapist in Texas and you graduate in Texas, you have your certificate or qualifications for Texas.
Yeah.
And you can't see anyone outside of your own state unless you get additional like qualifications or something. So I know I definitely can't see anyone in the States, but it's kind of up in the air depending on the country whether you can charge health like your services for international people. So
Yeah, it's interesting because I know a lot of the podiatrists, they'll be registered, or say a lawyer, I know the lawyers in America, they're registered in, say, the state of California. They can't just go and fly to New York and start smashing people.
It's crazy,
in court.
isn't it?
Yeah, because the laws are slightly different. So they've got to be registered in each state. And I think podiatry works the same.
I'm not entirely sure. I think
I'm not sure either.
It wouldn't surprise me because it should be for all like health professionals, I think.
Yeah, because it used to be, well, even in Australia, you used to have each state had their own registration board. So I used to work on the Gold Coast, which is close to the New South Wales border. So I had to be registered in both states.
Oh, wow.
But then when they had the national board, it was just one registration.
Yeah.
So you didn't need to worry about it.
I think I heard somewhere in the future they're looking to kind of clump a bunch of states together and have like it's not just going to be one individual state in the states moving forward. I think they're going to try and combine a couple of states and registered for those or something like that.
But I think if somebody in America wanted to contact you and get some advice on running,
I have tons of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, then it's all online. You're not claiming anything through insurance. They're paying for your time, for your expertise. To me, that's no difference to doing business coaching from one country to another.
Yeah, it's but they're kind of like murky waters, I guess you could say, at this stage, until there's like an international board or something that governs that kind of activity. I'm not too sure. I'm just playing on the safe side at the moment.
Oh yeah. Keep it on the safe side. Because like I go over America a fair bit. And sometimes I've had books in my bag that I'm actually just giving to some people there, but they've looked at it and said, "Oh, what are all these books for? Are you selling them?" I'm going, "No, I wish I'm giving them to people." And they go, "Oh, okay, that's fine." Because if they think you're selling them there, then therefore you're making money.
Yeah.
So it's all those things that internationally, we have to be careful about. But I think anyone that's listening to this, like I said before, with everything you've said, is how can they apply, even if it's just part of that, to the business to make things run better.
Mm.
So when do you think you'll make it? What's going to be the deciding factor whether you set up your own practice?
I guess it would depend on, like, let's just say I've done this online stuff for 6 months and it's growing and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on one, whether it's financially like viable to open up a small clinic, and I'll sort of weigh up the cost of that, whether I'm purely just like loving and enjoying the online side of things. Maybe I'll just stick to 100% online. Maybe I miss that, like I said, that person-to-person contact and want people to come in and so I can see them face-to-face. Whether a lot of people are contacting me being like, "Oh, are you located somewhere in Melbourne? Like, can I book in to see you?" If I'm getting a lot of those, maybe there's a higher demand to see them face to face. I'll just weigh up a bunch of factors.
I do see the model of them working together, having a practice where you may see somebody for hands-on work to start with, but then the follow-up becomes more of a telemarketing thing.
Yeah, well, the thing is, well, like with online, I can reach Australia-wide. And it's helping to funnel in a lot of people who need this advice and like someone who's really proficient in seeing runners. But then it does have the added benefit of if someone's going away or if I'm seeing someone face to face and then they're busy with kids or with work and can't get into a clinic to see someone, it's really easy and effective to see someone online, to just schedule like a half-hour call and they can just on their work break have a physio consult. It's some of the feedback that I'm getting. It's really, really good that they can work it into their schedule a lot easier.
Yeah, but times have changed. Years ago, you wanted to get a loan or something, you go to the bank, you go to the bank manager, be the same guy or lady that had been there for years. They'd know who you are because you'd bank with them for a certain period of time. But that's all changed. Now you want to get a loan, it's all done most of it's done online. I wouldn't know who our bank manager, I don't even know if there is a bank manager there. It's just the way the future is moving is people want things that are going to make their life easier. And I think even with what you're doing with online physiotherapy, for certain people, it's going to make their life easier.
Absolutely. And even just looking for like rurally, like the medical profession have been online for quite a while, but it's only just like recently had this like resurgence or wave, because a lot of people, if we're talking about outback Australia, don't have access to a physio. And I've talked to some people who have to drive 3 hours to get to a physio. And what about if they have back pain and they have to drive 3 hours? It's going to be so much worse. And then it's going to be aggravated by the time they get back because they have to drive for 3 hours to go back home. And it's initially been put into place for those people. But, you know, as technology has grown and people are more satisfied with, no, they're a bit more tech savvy, and I guess they're a bit more accustomed to the digital side of things. Okay, if you have to go see someone, is there an app for that? Or can I do this a bit easier online?
Yeah.
Is there a chat bot? Or do I have to call someone? I have to call someone. Oh, damn. It's what people are accustomed to these days.
I know, it has changed a lot. So, Brodie, before we finish up, what's the best way for people to reach out and connect with you if they've listened to this and they go, I'm thinking about contacting you for either physiotherapy, or they just want to reach out to you and connect with you in different ways? What's the best way?
My website is breakthroughrunning.physio. That would probably be the best initial thing to go to if you're curious about online physio. If you want just to say hi or any queries about any running injuries, the best place would probably go to the Facebook group. So it's Become a Smarter Runner, if you just search that. But if you're just interested in my content, you can go to the Run Smarter podcast. You can subscribe to that, or on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram, and so it's Brodie.Sharpe is my handle.
Okay, that's great. So, Brodie, I want to thank you for coming on It's No Secret with Dr. T. This is you're my first online person, I think, in this way.
Glad to be.
Well, you're my first online physiotherapist, third physio, but my first online one. And no, this has been good. This has been really interesting. It's got my mind thinking not just about physio or podiatry, just all these other professions that could just use this somehow with what they're currently doing. So thank you very much.
Totally agree. It's been a blast. Thanks, Doc.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Brodie Sharpe today. I thought it was really interesting having someone coming on talking about how and why they set up an online business, and his business in particular, an online physiotherapy business. Now, you may listen to this and thought, wow, that was really interesting, but I couldn't do that in my profession or with what it is that I do. But are there certain aspects of it that you may be able to apply? So just give that some thought. And at the moment, we're right in the middle of this whole coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic around the world. And there's a lot of people now who were working in offices who are now working from home. And I think what's happening right now is going to change the way a lot of businesses function. All these places that have had offices and had a lot of staff there, having them working from home now, if it still actually functions, is this going to be the new norm? Are more and more people going to start working from home and not so much getting all together? I know only time will tell. So before I go, just want to give a shout out to my book. Well, I've got two books. One's It's No Secret There's Money in Podiatry, and the other one is It's No Secret There's Money in Small Business. So if you haven't read them, grab yourself a copy. Like I said, with this whole COVID-19 thing going on, a lot of us are going to have a bit of spare time on our hands, and we need something to read. Go and grab yourself a copy of that book. Order it through Amazon or wherever you like to order your books, or you can order it directly from my website, tysonfranklin.com, if you live in Australia. So that's it for me this week. Look after yourself, and I really mean look after yourself. Take care of yourself. Be careful. Look after your family, and I will talk to you again very shortly. Bye for now.